Thank you very much. Belated welcome to RBS. Thanks for coming to our wonderful place. Thanks for staying in the room and not leaving. It's always good. I remember I did a gig with a band a few years ago, and there were more people on stage in the band than there were in the audience, so I do appreciate you coming anyway. So I'm Bart Simpson, as you can tell by my glasses and beard. I'm a developer, and I work in the emerging technologies team. And our job is to, I call it unboxing, my boss will call it taking the shrink wrap off new technology and seeing if it's actually useful to the bank and useful to our customers ultimately. We've been unboxing blockchain probably since about 2015, started with cryptocurrencies and various use cases, which I'll talk about in a bit. And yeah, and this is kind of our story, and I hope you like my kind of clickbait title here. That was just to get you in the room again because I was worried that you'd leave. And you know, ultimately, you know, philosophy is about asking some deep questions, and I think, as you've seen from that panel, it's quite heavy actually, wasn't it? And there are some fundamental questions we need to ask ourselves about blockchain, how it affects our business. You know, we were talking about sort of disenfranchising banks there. You know, so what does that mean for us, and what does that mean for our customers? What that means for us as individuals, as Bill was saying there as well. So, and in order to do that, we probably need to escape from Plato's Cave. Now, this is an old philosophical analogy. I'm not a great expert on philosophy, so if I get this wrong and you're a philosophy student, I apologise. You can come and slap me later. We've got a stand. So basically, the prisoners in Plato's Cave, they're stuck on chairs. They're facing this wall, and behind them, their captors have lit a fire, and they're projecting various objects onto the screen. And these people on these chairs just see that as their reality. And I think when we're faced with a new technology, you know, like blockchain or quantum or something like that, the first thing we do is map it to the world that we understand. And the world that we understand, you know, is big banking systems, central databases, and that kind of thing. So, and what I really wanted to do was think, well, how can we think differently about blockchain other than just mapping it on some business models that we already have? So another modern version of Plato's Cave was obviously the Matrix, and you know, Neo gets to choose the blue pill or the red pill. You know, does he actually want to go and see it for real? So we go down the rabbit hole. Anybody want to take the blue pill? You can leave now if you want, or we carry on. So first question, Ethereum. Let's think about its value proposition. Let's think about how it's owned and how it calculates compute. And it slowly dawns on me the power of what they've done here, building an economic model into a blockchain. And so if we think about compute, we're going back to the 60s. That was me in the 60s on my computer programming in binary or something like that. And you know, in the old days, you'd have one great big computer, probably owned by a single organisation and a single department, not connected to anything. You know, and if you wanted your compute time, you have to push the guy off the chair, get on and do your bit. And they probably cost thousands of millions of pounds. And they're moving on to, say, like the 90s. They look lovely, those servers, didn't they? You could see that now actually it's a little bit cheaper, isn't it? We can if our department wants a bit more computing power, we can buy another computer, and now we can start to connect to computers across the world and like that. But we're still paying for a single box, and we're paying for the electricity, probably a monthly bill to E.ON or someone like that. Then let's go further. So going back to the noughties, and about 2003, I saw that I experienced my first virtual machine. Virtual version of Windows. It was horrendously slow, but it allowed departments to start sharing their compute resource, because they realised that if they had all their own hardware, they'd probably only use about 10% of the hardware. So now we could actually share value, but we'd still buy a virtual machine. We'd still pay in fact, I think it was about the same price as a real physical machine. We still get billed at the end of the month, the electricity. Going forward again, now we've, you know, in the tenties. Does everybody call it the tenties? I don't know. Any other suggestions? I'm open. You know, we're in innovation. We can make up something. You know, that's what we do. So cloud compute now, you can spin up a server and you get very, very accurately charged for what you use. So that's quite a different model. But again, if we look at the organisation now, we've gone from a single organisation to we're all sharing this in the cloud with these. What was the acronym you used earlier again? Yeah, we use them in the GAFAM. All our computers are now in the GAFAM, aren't they? Well, they're not quite there. Let's be honest. Hands up who's... Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the people still have hardware under their desks. I've still got a bit of hardware under there. So, but yeah, so we're going cloud compute, and then we go on, and now it starts to get a bit weirder because now we've taken away the concept of compute. We've just got our code in a container in Docker, and Google will run about 2 billion of these things in their world, and now you can just pay for the compute for your Docker container. Well, almost actually. We're just about on the edge of being able to do that. So then you've got quite an interesting model. And taking it further, Microsoft and Amazon now, and probably actually IBM have got this concept where you can just take your code and you can put it in the cloud, and they charge you per transaction. I've just noticed as well there, Lambda actually should have a D like a B in it, but I think because I come from Essex, that's like an Essex spelling it, Lambda. So whatever. So anyway, so this is all compute in the cloud, and as you see, the organisations, we're slowly moving our stuff and putting our trust into a very, very few cloud servers. And then what happens in the same year, Ethereum comes out and says, it totally knocks the socks out of it. It says, right, here's a world computer, you can join it how you want. You can download our software, you're on the network. We don't have to trust you, it works. You can do your compute, and actually we charge you for what you use there and then. In fact, we'll almost charge you per instruction in your code in a concept called gas. And so that's, that's really compelling model. But the fact that you've got a token in there and smart contracts means quite a lot. It means that actually you can send money to the contracts. I promised I wouldn't mention ICOs on this talk because everybody else has mentioned it so far, but there you go, I failed, so there you go. But the fact that you can send money to these things makes some very, very interesting models that we couldn't do before. So I'll go through a few of these because these quite excite me. So this is Imogen Heap. She's got these wonderful sort of music gloves and does looping and all sorts of brilliant music things, and she wrote the music for the Harry Potter play as well. So she released this single on Ethereum in 2016 onto the blockchain, and in that contract all the artists were credited that worked on that as well, the bass player, the violin player, the kazoo player or whatever. And so when someone downloaded that track, they immediately got credited for that. And that's so powerful. If you think of how the music business has worked up till now, it's, there's so many, you could name a lawsuit for almost every band where they hadn't been paid performing rights for this song, that song, and stuff like that. So there's actually people starting to get control of their data. What Bill was saying earlier, the citizens started to put themselves back in control. And actually, this platform here, Ujo's just gone live this year. I think there's one artist on it, but slowly, more and more artists can actually put their stuff on the blockchain and actually see who their fans are and actually interact with their fans. Whereas, if you make your own music and you're on say Spotify, then you will get paid per downloads and stuff like that. You have no idea who's doing that, and in a way, you don't even know if those downloads are right. I'm sure they are, but how do you know? On this, you can actually prove it. So that's quite powerful. So take that across to sort of digital media. And I think this is in a bit of a mess for people that write articles. I don't know how they get paid. If there's any journalists here or anything like that would like to tell me how they get paid, it'd be quite, I don't know how much it is, obviously, but So you've got Medium where you can pay for a sort of a subscription to that. You've got Wikipedia where, Jim, he phones me up every year and asks me for a donation of £5 or whatever. And then you've got the FTSE. I don't know, someone sends something on LinkedIn, really great FTSE article, and you go, oh, FT, oh, hang on, I haven't got a subscription to that. I might not want to pay $13.99 for a whole subscription for the year, maybe the same with Wired. Or the Guardian's asking for donations. So they've got all these messed up models, and I think this technology would allow micropayments. So if you write an article, or even like I did a while ago, I edited a white paper for somebody and didn't get credited for it, I'm not really upset. Well, I am actually, and I wish I got paid for it. But so that's I haven't seen a platform that does this. Probably someone will tell me after that there's one. Probably Tom in my department usually tells me, oh yeah, there's an app for that. There you go, perfect. I knew you'd know. So you can tell me about loads of other platforms that I haven't mentioned later. Brilliant, thank you. So on the other hand, if you can't be bothered to do anything, just sit on your sofa, like this, and go, do you know what? I'll just fire up my laptop, and I'll just donate my compute to Gollum, and then universities running simulations can kind of just use your compute power. And this Gollum platform is still in kind of alpha, I think. Uses Ethereum for the micropayments underneath, and uses like a peer-to-peer network, so you can run compute on your computer. And obviously, it's very, very secure, So I don't know, but it's a very interesting concept. Then taking it on, we were talking about solar panels and microgrids earlier. So you've got this solar coin thing. So probably not if you're in Scotland. It's probably not so good for gathering solar energy. It's a bit dark and wet, isn't it? But if you're in a more sunny country, you can actually trade your own solar coins, and then you've got a whole different market around there. So and then if you're a developer and you use, who uses GitHub here? Hands up who uses GitHub. So wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great really if you're the guy that's late in the office on the Friday night, and you're about to go out for a beer, but you're a bit skint, and then you could just donate some, you could just do some code and you could upload it into Git, and then get paid for it in a coin. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? Then you go straight down the pub. It'd be brilliant. So we're talking about, they think about 40% of the the British economy are people in what they call the gig economy. But I think blockchain's going to enable us to have this kind of micro gig economy. You might not even be employed in the future. You might just have all these different gigs going on, with your solar panels and your, when you're not using your computer, you let Gollum do that, and then you might write an article about how you got ripped off by the Gollum system or whatever, and so it spirals. So you can see different ways of empowering people and earning money. So I think that can go a long way. And these platforms are very, very immature at the moment. I don't recommend anybody use them just yet, but I think UJ Music looks quite good if you're a musician, unless you're a bad musician, in which case obviously you won't get paid. And we'll talk a bit about data. So what do I? This comes back to what Bill was saying. So this is my take on the citizen owning their own data and kind of GDPR really. I don't fully understand GDPR, but I think I think it's a good thing that restricts organisations using your data and lets you know about what they're doing, because otherwise we end up with this kind of dystopian image. The panopticon, which is philosopher Jeremy Bentham came up with this rather sinister idea that you'd have a prison where in the middle the kind of guards could see all the prisoners, and the prisoners couldn't see the guards. And isn't that like your data at the moment? If lots of organisers got your data and see what you're doing, you think of the amount of CCTV out there and that kind of thing, you have no control over that. And I do think it should come back to the citizen. And now this is one alleged example. I'm going to use the word alleged here. I'm going to be very careful. But there was this robot hoover that was going around people's houses, hoovering up. But it's also taking the dimensions of your house, and it was uploading it to the cloud. And there was some controversy about the fact that people could hack that data and learn about all the sizes of your houses, or even monetize that kind of thing. So that's just one example, and I'm sure there's a billion others. If we're in self-driving cars and we're uploading that data, what does that say about our journeys? So the good news is, I think people are starting to think, obviously clearly from today, people are starting to think about this. And so I sort of feel fairly strongly about this, that you should not only be able to control your data, but you should be able to monetize your data. You should get value out of the data that you produce. We are all data producers, aren't we? At the end of the day, as soon as you move your producing data into my mobile phone there, as soon as I do a bit of music or say something, I'm producing data, and I should have the right to own that. So I was looking at this Ocean protocol, which is done by the big chain DB guys, and that's the idea, that you can have a lock container with your data in and let out the bits you want and be monetized for those things. So I think I think that's quite a compelling thing for data. So that's sort of looking sort of into the future, but sort of RBS, we've kind of started with our own kind of POCs and pilots, and you know, as we move towards 2018, I think we may see some very, very small live things go on. We're taking very, very careful, as a regulated organisation, very careful baby steps. So I'll go through a few of these. The Emerald system, this is something we knocked up in our garage to imitate Swift. I thought it was quite funny. So yeah, we basically put ISO 22 Swift messages onto Ethereum, and my boss set us the challenge: can we make this go as fast as the SEPA requirements, which is 100 transactions per second? And yeah, if you basically reduce the difficulty in the mining in Ethereum, you can absolutely do it. And we've tested this with a few banks out in Ireland. They currently haven't got a backup for their interbank payment system, and so we've tested it out there with the Irish bank. So that's been reasonably successful. Whether it goes on, it becomes an adopted solution. It's an interesting thing. Lots of people are trying this kind of thing in payments. IBM are doing the same at the moment as well. So Ripple are trying to do the same thing with the payments network. But I think eventually there will be a different payments network, and it will probably be a decentralized network. That's a prediction. So the other thing we've been doing is looking at trade finance, and I think when I first started looking at this, I worked in financial markets for about 15 years, and I came into which was it was at the time quite modern in tech. We had grid computing and all sorts of wonderful things. But when I started looking at trade finance, I realised that actually there's not even digitization in that space. And it seems to be the killer app, the idea that you can join up a supply chain of loads of different organisations and be able to put a letter of credit on there and be able to move, you know, the whole process of buying something with insurance and that kind of thing through shipping end to end. So we've been working with the R3 organisation. We work with about 30, it says on there, doesn't it, how many banks we work with? It's 11, was it 13? I can't remember. But that's a really good project, and that's going on. We're also looking at the payables, receivables side of things as well, and I think there's a lot of mileage in that. As a use case as it is, it's a kind of decentralised use case. Yeah, so I think that's quite interesting. It's not like some of the more modern models we're seeing, but I think it's a place where a lot of efficiency can be made out of that. I heard that in shipping about 30% of the cost is in the paperwork, so that's a massive saving that we could make for that kind of market. The most recent thing we've done, which is a bit different, and arguably is it an edge case for DLT? I'm not sure, but we work with the FCA and an unnamed bank, although you could probably find out who they are. And we were looking at mortgage reporting. Now, currently, if you report a mortgage, the banks report to the FCA every quarter, and they spend 90 days gathering this data and building it up in, I think it's a big XML document, pushing it across to the FCA, and the FCA go, thanks very much, and they have to look through it. So what we did, we put this onto R3 Corda, so that then you could book mortgage onto the ledger, and it'd be instantly available in the FCA. Now, using Corda has a relational database, so actually they can take MI straight off that, as opposed to say like pulling data out of Ethereum, which is a little bit harder. But we do have some challenges, and one of the challenges we have, and I think a lot of people that develop blockchain have, a lot of technology people have, is what are the good use cases, what are the bad use cases? Are you just replacing something that already exists, or are you doing something disruptive and useful? So we have kind of like we call this a litmus test, and we say, if you look at that model, fundamentally, if you could use a database and an API, then do it. It's a lot easier. We've all got years of experience using databases. Do it like that. Don't bother. If it's a centralized model, leave it as a centralized model. The second thing we say is, and Tom got quoted this for last year, and probably my boss said it a year before somewhere else. This is our own chain of things. You can only have so much fun on your own with the blockchain. So we're one of the reasons we're working with R3 is so that we can collaborate with other banks under NDA, and really it is about sending data across organisation for us. So it's been great working with sort of HSBC and Bangkok Bank and US Bank on various different projects, and it's great seeing that developers in our bank are the same as developers in their bank, they just wear a different badge. And again, I mentioned centralised business model. If it's a centralised business model, then it's going to stay like that. If it's a decentralised business model like trade finance or buying a house or something like that, it's probably a good case. So another challenge we have is now, earlier I was talking about Ethereum's, it's a brilliant battle-proof public network, but when we start looking at blockchain consortiums working in private networks, there's some very interesting conundrums that we end up with, and there's this sort of gravity towards centralisation and control. And you can do it very, very accidentally. So this is something we're going through at the moment. So the question is this decentralised? If a cloud provider is running all our Ethereum nodes, of say like these are 4 banks, and they're doing something, they're doing payments or something like that, what is the point of doing that? In a cloud, you might as well just have a database in the middle. So those kind of things is very easy to do. What you really want is this, a truly decentralized model where each participant controls their own node, and they can join and they can leave the network. Now Microsoft have done quite a good bit of work on something called the COCO framework, and part of that, other than the technical side of it, is they're looking at this federated model of being able to vote people in and vote people out of the consortium, and that's kind of how it's going to work. But each person should have, again, their own control. And if this was, I put Ethereum symbol there, but if that was a Corda ledger, then each bank would only have the transactions that they made with, the banks that they transacted with. So that's another interesting side of things. So another good question is, this is a really good one to ask. This one's, when you go to blockchain, I know we all go to blockchain parties after we've, had a day at work, let's go to a meet up and, let's go and slate some technology and big up the other one. Which one's going to be the winner? What do we see? Well, we've been working with Hyperledger, we've been working with Ethereum, we've been working with Corda, we've done some work with Ripple. We looked at the Interledger protocol, that's those 5 circles, we sort of cried a bit and went, it's not quite ready. It's really not quite ready. But we believe this, that there will not be one blockchain that rules them all. There will not. Because at the end of the day, I think there's enough gravity around these things to build these kind of different platforms, and that's a terrible word, isn't it? In a decentralized world, you don't have platforms, you just have collaborators. And so what we could do with this technology is carry on building. We were talking, in the panel, we were talking about shift of power. You could build a different set of digital islands, and that seems, to me, that seems a bit pointless. So it's thinking about where this is going to go. What is going to be the power of blockchain? And I think this comes down to Web3. And there's lots of definitions of this. There's lots of definitions. If you look for definitions on Web3, you'll get a whole page worth of things. And if you look at Ethereum, if you look at the client code, it actually says Web3 in there. That's one version of what Web3 is, and I think there's lots of different versions of the truth there, and maybe they can coexist. But I think the key point is that I'd like to see from these technologies is that we have collaborative networks rather than. I know we said the internet's a bit broken, but I like HTTP because loads of different technologies can expose that protocol and they can all talk to each other. So I'd like to see protocols for blockchain so that different blockchain technologies and things outside of blockchain can talk to each other. So common protocols, not proprietary platforms really. Again, decentralized control, not this big gravity around these sort of Jupiter-sized, clouds. It'd be nicer to see sort of flatter structures and flatter shifts of power. And I think mostly it's been quite a good theme today. I think data should be owned and controlled, by the producers of the data, not the consumers. But that's going to be quite a challenge, and I'm glad to see so many people here up for the blockchain challenge. So, but Then the next question you come and ask, how do we recruit blockchain developers? So we're going to do a bit of speed recruitment now. So stick your hand up if you're blockchain, if you're a developer actually. Stick your hand up if you're a developer. Okay, cool. Right. Stick your hand down if you're working on blockchain projects. So keep it up if you're just, if I say just a developer, that's a bit patronising, isn't it really? Right, so the people that you've still got your hand up, you've come to a blockchain conference and you're not a blockchain developer yet. Soon you will be because you're obviously enthusiastic about it. So I say to you, you know, fire up Ethereum, you know, write your own smart contract, even if it's just a hello world, and then try and explain it to your mum or your oldest relative. That's what I say. So anyway, I think we have a choice to make. I think it's up to people like this in the room to shape the way that blockchains move and encourage the developers to move in a sensible way that's collaborative, so that actually we can build Web3. And then it disappears into the ether, and then we can get on with our business, whatever that business may be. So yes, we can take the red pill, the blue pill. We can decide to escape from Plato's Cave or just carry on with the status quo, and that's up to you, not to me. Like Ian Banks, you know, local brilliant writer, he never believed that a single person could save the world, and neither do I. I'm quite happy to take a few questions if you want. We've got a stand down there, so if you're shy, you can come and ask us on the stand. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you.